Welcome, beautiful, beloved beings. Today I wanted to come to you with a continuation of a story, the kind of story that we walk with for most, if not all, of our lives. You see, I've over the years had friends and relationships that I thought would last a lifetime, but ended for whatever reason. Sometimes they end because we simply grow apart. Sometimes they end because we've gone different paths and have different interests now. Sometimes the relationship might end because, or maybe not end, but transform because needs change. We walk with each other for an hour, a season, a lifetime. It depends on what our contracts before we came are, what our needs now are, whether or not we find ourselves in different circumstances, or that there's just not a meeting of the minds. There's not the same goals for each of us that maybe we once had or we once accommodated so that we could all learn from one another. Because that's, after all, the main thing that we're trying to do is learn a lesson so we can let it go and we don't have to learn it again. If we have to learn something again, if we didn't get the point, if we didn't understand the lesson, we will find ourselves repeating it again and again and again until we learn the lesson and we can stop ourselves once a situation begins and we can think to ourselves, I've already done this. I've learned this lesson. It's time to let that go and move on to something new. Now, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's very painful. If it's a marriage, it's not only painful, there are legalities involved. If it's a partnership, depending on if it's a business partnership or a personal relationship, there are things to sort out. If it was a personal relationship, there may not have been any legal precedent that you have to go by or sort things out with. It may just be a sorting out of personal feelings and items and that sort of thing. Doesn't have to be a marriage or a marriage-like situation, like a bonding, a monogamous commitment. It doesn't have to be that. It can be a friendship. It can be a business partnership. If you dissolve a business partnership, you may have legalities that you need to take care of. Whatever it is, maybe you just met someone in passing and they had some profound effect on you by saying something they just kind of didn't even realize they were saying. Whatever the case may be, whether it's having to move on or transform a relationship into something new, into a new thing, a new creation. there's always going to be feelings around that. And we may be hurt, or we may be angry, or we may not have any negative feelings. We may just feel like we have just needed to separate and go different ways. That's when we learn the lesson. But just because we're having some amount of discomfort or pain does not mean that we didn't learn the lesson or that it wasn't valuable to us. Sometimes we have to let go of people that we love dearly, but that are not healthy for us to be around. Now, whatever the case may be, sometimes it's relocation. It can be any kind of reason. And no matter what we feel as far as being separated from our loved one, we can learn from the situation, learn from it. What was the situation about? What did we find? What were the good times? What were sometimes not the bad times, not such good times? Did we make progress? Did we learn something? If we didn't learn something, and we have a painful ending, so this is just as a, I will tell you about the ending of my marriage. My marriage was very toxic for many, many years. And when I came to the realization that I could not take the abuse anymore, he couldn't believe that there was anything wrong and that there was any reason for me to be upset or to feel like I had been treated poorly. It took a really long time for me to learn the lesson to protect myself. So, did I learn that lesson, though? When I left that situation and there was so much pain around it, not just the pain of leaving, but added pain from other situations, then did I learn that? Did I learn that I needed to take care of myself? Sure, I did pull myself out of there before I was killed or put in an institution permanently. I did take myself out of the situation before that happened. But did I learn the lesson? Would it have to be that extreme if I didn't? So, the pattern repeated, not with a partnership relationship, but in friendships I had over the years. And I did finally learn to see when a situation was going to turn toxic. It's not easy to learn that lesson, but it's not easy to recognize the lesson learned when it comes up again and pull yourself out of that situation. So maybe some relationship ends because you have seen that it's not a good situation and it's not something you have to put yourself through. Well, then what happens if you learn that lesson, but then you have a relationship and a friendship with someone? For many years this happened to me. Every time I would have a friend, I would lose them to death. They would die. It makes you so you don't want to have friends. You're afraid if you have a friend that they're going to die, and you don't want to be a catalyst for that to happen, but you also don't want your heart to be broken because you lost that friend. Now, I had for many years friends that didn't take place, but I ended up losing them because I had to extricate myself from a situation. And so I lost a whole set of friends and family members too, just because they didn't understand, the situation around why I needed to leave. And so then I started new friendships, and I'd have close friendships, and the person would just suddenly die. And I had not young people that I had friendships with would just suddenly die, or have a surprising medical condition and suddenly die, or on occasion it would be an older person, but for the most part it was people either my age or younger. And I felt like I was a pariah because I couldn't let myself be around too many people because something might happen to them. So I did eventually come to the realization that that's part of the reason I'm here, is to walk with people to the end. In some cases, help them, show them the way. So, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that we walk with each other along our path or a parallel path for an hour, a season, a lifetime. It may not be our lifetime, it may be their lifetime. But how do you get through transforming all that grief into something that you can deal with, into a learnable lesson that you can take with you? One of the lessons I learned is that I'm just as important as anyone else. Another lesson I learned is that it's okay to walk with someone to the end of their path. If the end of their journey is looming, it's okay to be with them and support them and even help them when they do leave. So I felt the need to come today because I felt like the lesson was coming to light, that we walk together and then we leave, we part, we go separate ways, whether that's on this plane or the next. We are simply here to learn the lessons and help others learn the lessons. So maybe we're part of their lesson. We know they're part of our lesson. Each of us has something to offer. And there should be a place we come to in our own heart where that's okay. It's okay for us to meet and part. It's okay for us to love one another. And goes our separate ways. Even if that happens, we don't have to stop loving each other. We still love each other. We just may not have the same journey. Each of us needs to live our own journey and walk on our own path. If we learn the lessons, we won't have to walk those hard paths, or they won't be as hard. They may still hurt, but they won't have to be as hard, and they won't have to be long and drawn out. So, I have asked my spirit team to come forward to help us with a message. I wanted to use today the Shadow of Light and Dark Oracle and the Robin Wood Tarot, and just ask my spirit team, my angels, guides, ascended masters, my ancestors, my deities, source, creator, whoever you go to when you are seeking solace, advice, comfort, your higher power, whoever your higher power is, that's who's there to comfort you. And so I'm asking my personal spirit team, and they know who they are, to come forward and help us with a message for learning to transform what the people we meet, the relationship with them, into something new, to create something new. Even when we still love them and we have to let them go, and how that impacts us. Help us to know where we're going and what we're doing. So the first card I got is the Page of Pentacles. Maybe we need to concentrate on what we learn. What was the lesson? Concentrate on that. How did it help us? How did we see it? Did we accept it? Did we throw a tantrum? Were we hurt? Did we feel stabbed in the heart? What was that all about? Analyze what happened. Whatever it was, analyze it. Get a little distance from it and ask yourself questions so you can learn from whatever it was. Maybe it was positive and you just want to get a grasp on what happened so you can repeat it. So remember whatever happened. Even if you're still in a relationship or the relationship seems to be changing, analyze it. What did I learn? How can I use it? What's the constructive thing I can do with it? The next card I got was the Queen of Wands. She's generous and practical, and she gets things done, and she's got all that fire in her heart and soul. Let that be you. You be that Queen of Wands. You hold your wand up high. You let that fire in that volcano spur you into action. Are you going to stand there and be consumed by lava? Don't do it. Don't do it. Get out of its way. Learn the lesson and act on it. The next card I got is the King of Cups. Now, there's all that water, there's all that emotion. But look at him. He's balanced. He understands what happened. Whatever the emotions are. Are they over the moon ecstatic? Are they in the pits of hell desperate? Whatever it is, he understands it. And he's got that cup to balance. He's balancing what he knows, what he feels, what the situation is. And he's using that and letting it feed his power. On the bottom of the deck, the Hanged Man, he is in that position voluntarily. He's climbed up this tree and wrapped his legs around a limb, and he's looking at the situation from a different perspective. Look at it from every angle. He wanted to see it from every angle so much that he turned himself upside down to look at it. Look at your whole situation. Not just what happened to you, but what happened to everyone inside the play. Look at all the players. What were all their parts? Everyone contributed to the lesson. Everyone. So, Shadows of Light and Dark Oracle. I wanted to ask the same question. What do we learn when we have to deal with transforming, co-creating new relationships? What lessons did we learn? Oh, the Angel of Alchemy. She represents miracles. It was a miracle, whatever it was. It was a miracle that it happened, and it was so wonderful. It was a miracle you got out alive. It was a miracle that it didn't kill you. It was a miracle that everything was so beautiful. Whatever it was a miracle. And it continues to be a miracle. And if it's not, the Angel of Alchemy can turn it into miracle. Learn the lesson. This card came out at the same time. It's Poe. I don't have my glasses on, but what it says is a time to change, to learn something new, to use technology and gadgets with wisdom. So Poe is telling you, learn. Use everything at your disposal, but be wise about it. The Fairy of the Highlands. It's time to be brave. So whatever it is, it's time to be brave. Even something wonderful requires bravery. So muster up your internal mettle and make yourself brave so that you can accept whatever happens. And then finally, the Candy Cane Angel. She says it's time for a treat. So after everything, after everything, you've reviewed everything, you've learned what you can, you've looked at all the players in the puzzle, you have been brave and followed through with whatever it was. Staying, leaving, modifying. Whatever happened required bravery. And so now you deserve a treat. Treat yourself. Remember that you are worthy. You do deserve good things. Whatever it is, be on good terms with one another, regardless of what has happened in the past. Don't begrudge someone their success. Love them even if you left them. They deserve it, and you deserve it. So until next time, my beloved, beautiful beings,